Not. So Patrick, do we describe this for everybody, Rob?
What?
You describe it.
What?
I do enough talking.
I think any car's dead in iRacing. I think it's gone.
Oh, it's definitely. I agree. It's not going to survive much. But I still think we'll find opportunities to race it, just not as fruitful as before. Some of them just want to like make. What's the thing? Like that guy wanted to make like dolls out of Tyler's hair, but then there's just other guys who are just like. He did. He would say weird things to Tyler, man. Like he was a strange guy. And then like other guys would just show up out of nowhere. He's like, "Oh, we never met you? Sure, come race this 24 with us." And then just jump in the car and wreck us out in a lap and be like, "Okay, never see you again."
Yeah, that
like,
was
okay. Well, better luck next year, I guess.
That was the guy from.
The Palace of Speed. The chaos early on in this race.
Here we are again, another wonderful Thursday night here at Slow Motion Broadcasting, and we're covering the always amazing, always beautiful, always glorious Spec-5 World Tour at Phillip Island. And Randall, the last time I ran Phillip Island was in the NASCAR trucks when they decided to do the C-Class race here. And let me tell you what, it was difficult, to say the least, my man. So, what are you thinking about tonight's race?
Well, tonight's going to look way, way different than the NASCAR trucks. but it will still be pretty difficult out there for these drivers, especially those first few laps on cold tires. Turn 2, notoriously difficult to drive here, and it's going to catch a few people out on cold tires. You can bet on it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if it's anything like some of the MotoGP races I've seen here, I mean, they're almost like Miatas, right? They're about the same size. So should be some good racing. But we got some points to go through here real quick before we get to qualifying, guys. Going to do the top 5 for each class. Mitchell Peak up there with 777 points. That is an awesome airplane, by the way, Mitchell. Boeing 777, if nobody got that reference. Ronnie Coates in second. Mike Dam in third. Otis Adams and Camden Hibbett in 4th and 5th. And Camden, watch out. He's coming. He is coming in a hurry. Let's go through the open class, Randall.
Absolutely. We got Ken Copeland in the lead with 489 points with a nice gap over Andrew Kosick. That race a couple weeks ago, or the races over the past couple weeks have really paid out well for him. Andrew Kosick sitting on 441 in second. Jose Gonzalez breathing down his neck in third place with 435 points and a nice gap back to Andrew Gilliland with 385 points. And the late joiner, Paulo Coimbra, sitting in 5th place with 341 points.
Yeah, I mean, Paulo's doing a great job. Another person I want to talk about real quick before we go on board with actually Ken Copeland, because why not? Orlando Harrell, new to the league. He's come out and he's put some pretty good races down so far for the 2 he's done.
He absolutely has, and we expect to see more of that from him. He could jump Jerry here over the next couple weeks if he has a couple good finishes. So if he can just keep his head down and keep the car clean and out of trouble, he could have a good shot here to maybe even try to challenge the top 5 by the time we get to the end of the season. Right now, we're going to jump on board with Ken Copeland and take a flying lap around Phillip Island. We see him coming down through the last corner, getting all the way down to that apex curbing, using all the track, trying to keep that wheel as straight as possible for this big run to the start-finish line to start his flying lap. And this start-finish line is so far down the straightaway, we're definitely going to see a drag race here at the end of the race, somewhere between 2 people. This is a very fast right-hander. We're going to see if he stays in 5th gear or goes down to 4th. It sounds like he goes down to 4th there. Nope, keeps it at 5th. Sometimes going down to 4th will make it a little bit more tame with the higher revs. And then the very tricky turn 2 is double apex, and the second apex is super late. So you got to really be patient when you get to that throttle. And you heard that he had to lift just a little bit there. Probably still trying to get some temp into these tires. A very easily flat open sweeper to the left that leads into a very heavy braking zone for a very tight right-hander down to 1st gear. Get over there to that apex curb, and a very tight exit. There's a little bit of runoff there, but you really don't want to be over there. Get the car to the right-hand side of the track for another double apex. Sometimes you can just skip the first apex and then get over for the second one, get through the left-hander of Siberia, and then the winding run up the hill, easily flat out in these cars, maybe avoiding the curbs on the first couple laps. We're going to see Ken ride that curb there and keep the car to the right. You really need to open up a late apex here, coming up the hill, maybe drop down a gear. There he does it. I'm going to keep it very tight to the left on exit. So you get this drop down, very heavy braking zone down the 1st gear for a cambered right-hand corner. It's easy to oversteer out of with that cambering, and then an easily flat left-hander that follows to the final corner, and the very long sweeping left-hand corner that leads back onto the front straight to finish the lap. And definitely going to see something here at the end of the race, people going side by side with that draft.
So, Randall, you mentioned before we went live, man, I sure am glad there's rolling starts here. And I asked you why. Your answer was turn 2. Can you explain a little bit about that?
So since they have a rolling start, they'll have a lap behind the pace car. They can use that to try to get some heat into those tires so they're not coming in absolutely stone cold. Right now, track temperature only 66 degrees Fahrenheit. So sitting there on the grid, it's going to be like driving on ice cubes, trying to go into turn 2 on cold tires. That pace lap's going to give them a little bit of opportunity to get some temperatures, not very much, but some temperature into those tires. So they'll have a little bit of grip. Keep your eye on turn 2, those first couple laps. We're going to see some people definitely struggling there.
Alex, I don't know if you're here yet or if you're even next to your mic. I know you're a little bit late, man, but I do remember last race we had here, it was a drag race down to the line in both the open and the pro class. You excited to see something else like that again tonight?
It was absolutely insane, and yes, I am ready. Thank you for checking. And last time we went here, I've been looking forward to this. This has probably been the race I've been looking forward to the most this whole season, probably besides Monza, just because, you know, you can't go wrong with Monza Combined. It's one of my favorite tracks on the service, but this race in particular, and Red Bull Ring as well next week, I've been looking forward to this race for a while, primarily just because of the way last season's race when we were here, it was absolutely insane. Like you mentioned, Adam, drag races down to the line in both the pro and open classes. It was absolutely incredible to watch, and I'm hoping we get an equally amazing show here tonight.
And correct me if I'm wrong, it wasn't a drag race as much. Was it more of a fuel game, I believe, last race as well? Or maybe it was a tire game. There was some definite late bloomers in that race that came and almost, I mean, they were giving battles to both the open and pro class.
Fairly confident it was some fuel strategy. Some drivers were running out of fuel later in the race, so I reckon with another trip here, the drivers that were in that race are going to be more prepared tonight. And I'm excited to see how they're going to tackle this racetrack. It's pretty tough to get right, especially that turn 2. I heard Randall mention that one earlier. It's very difficult to get correct, and there's a lot of challenging corners on this. You can pretty much tell just by looking on the track map that this was made for motorcycles. And like you mentioned, Adam, the MotoGP races here in real life are absolutely insane. So I'm looking forward to a good one tonight.
And one more thing before you guys shush me down back into my production booth. We're riding on board right now with Greg Mack. And if you look close at the side of his car, he has got a bit of an Aussie-themed slow-mo broadcasting paint scheme tonight. And it is beautiful, Greg. Good job. I love it.
It's a pretty cool paint scheme there. And as Greg Mack comes around to set his third lap, if the UI is telling me correctly, see if he can improve on that. Mike Dam going a little bit slowly here. Might just be conserving for his last lap. He's on his third lap, so he's got one more lap to go. He might just be conserving around the track to get in one more good push lap. Here's Camden Hippett, last week's winner.
And Camden was showing a lot of speed in practice, and I watched him attacking the pit entry. That is going to be very key tonight. It's a very, very good pit entry to attack. You really need to get in there as quickly as you can and use that little cut through the track as to your advantage to gain as much time as you can. And back to the fuel game from last season, this start-finish line being so far down the track or down the front straightaway can really catch you out on your fuel calculations, because normally that start-finish line isn't so far down. It's actually past all the pit stalls. So people can get a little bit off in their calculations, take a little too little fuel, and end up having to save at the last moment when they realize that they're not going to make it.
Yeah, and something I do also want to mention in terms of the pit lane, if we can get somebody heading down the front straightaway, is there's kind of two ways you can exit the pit lane at this track. You can re-enter the track pretty much immediately, or you can follow an access road all the way down to turn 1. So it's pretty much driver choice. If we can get a driver coming down the front straightaway, I'd like to point that out. And we've got where the Mitchell Peak is heading around that area of the track soon. So here he is. He's heading through, I'm pretty sure, no, this isn't Siberia. I can't remember the name of this hairpin, but that nice cambered right-hander into the 2 full throttle left-hand corners to finish the lap. And you'll see the pit lane entry just about there. And it's a pretty normal pit entry for a track like this one. It just kind of follows the curvature of the last corner and brings you into the pit lane. But as we head down the front straightaway, you're going to see 2 little access roads on the left there, right after the second Melbourne sign. You can see the first one right there where the blue cone is, and then there's another one to the left. You can see it right there, and it puts you back on the track at right about turn 1. Yeah, there's the exit for that one right there. So you can take either the long pit exit or the short pit exit. It's really all up to the driver in that situation. So, Randall, you wonder if that could possibly come into play tonight with people maybe trying to break the draft on oncoming cars.
Unfortunately, I was not able to stick around for their drivers meeting, but I did hear some discussions about which pit lane exit to use amongst the drivers during the practice server. And honestly, it's situational. Sometimes it's better to use that short exit, and sometimes it's better to go with the long exit to give you the outside line for turn one. It's really a judgment call. If you take a look at your relative, if you know there's not many cars coming, it's better to jump out there early so you can take a proper line through turn one. But if you know there's a lot of traffic coming, it might be better to take that longer access road and take that wide entry into turn one and maybe have a run set up for turn two.
Yeah, and especially in a dead heat in terms of pit strategy, it could be important for drivers to maybe force a car to their inside or force a car offline by using either one of those pit exits. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not that comes into play. Here's Charles Vaccaro, currently 15th on the board here. Looks like he's not really on a push lap at the moment, just kind of hanging out so far in the 164 machine.
Hey, any viewers here, I see we've got 17 concurrent right now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I do want to tell you that I am working through an issue right now with the overlay system. Has updated on me, so any driver photos you see will be covered. Will be covered by the car photo as well. I'm going through an update at the moment, and we will get that fixed as soon as possible.
Good little heads up there. As Charles Vaccaro looks like he'll be on his last push lap here through turn one. Sorry, Randall.
Right now, Charles running in 14th, but you look at that leaderboard. Look who's sitting in 4th place right now. The currently open class leader, Ken Copeland, is really punching above his weight. Not very far, just like 1.5 tenths off Mike Dam's time. So Ken really, really liking this place, really has the car hooked up, and is absolutely flying.
Yeah, and also, I don't think we've ever been in a situation in this league where an open class driver has been in contention for the overall race win. Yeah, and I just got word from our producer that we have not. So an open class driver has never in this series won the overall win, or won the overall race, excuse me. So maybe, just maybe, we've seen cars that start 4th place. We've seen them win before, and judging off the pace of Ken Copeland, he might just be the first driver to pull it off tonight. It also definitely helps him that not a lot of people are currently in this race right now as we're watching Michael Coates practice his pit entry right there hard onto the brakes as he heads behind the tire barrier. And also a little fun thing about this pit lane, it goes downhill. So the track and the pit lane are not level with one another. The pit lane is a little bit lower.
So when we were interviewing Ken Copeland after the Nürburgring race, then he was saying that he wouldn't say no to a win, but during the Nürburgring race, he was very much trying to just hold station. Now, I wonder if he starts sniffing that top 3, if he'll actually get a little bit hungrier, and if he starts seeing those dollar signs and maybe makes a few mistakes. But right now, I'm getting word that we have Tom Athan in the booth, Alex, for a bit of a pre-race interview.
Yeah, and Tom, judging off of times, you're currently sitting in 13th. That'll put you 4th on the grid for the open class. So, especially with the pace of some of the other drivers in the open class field, how are you going to prepare for your race tonight?
Well, I think the preparation's already done. I'm just going to do the best that I can from this point.
Yeah, so, it's looking to be a pretty interesting race overall. It's the second time, at least in slow motion broadcasting's coverage, that we've been here to this track. Were you in that previous race? And if so, how do you think that experience could help you for this one?
Well, how it helped me is that I knew that, some of these corners on this track are really hard to get down, and it's easy to overdrive them. So in my practice, I really worked on not overdriving the corners. We'll see how that plays out this time around.
And like we mentioned in the booth, this track, you can just almost tell by the layout that this track was built for motorcycles, and driving cars around here is definitely going to be a bit of a challenge. And Tom, we mentioned this a bit earlier before you joined in here. We noticed that there's 2 little pit exit roads you can take. There's a short one or one that takes you straight to turn 1. You can either get on the track immediately or wait until the outside of turn 1. So do you think as a driver, could that come into play? And if so, which lane would you probably take?
Well, when I came out to do a little practice this evening, I saw that there were people right there at the first exit. So I went on down to the second one, and I cut a guy off there. So both places is in the driving line, and so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. When there's cars in the pits, your relative shows the cars in the pits and not necessarily who's coming up. So it's really hard to tell on that first pit exit if there's somebody there or not. So that's going to be interesting to see how that works.
All right, well, the grid's forming up, so we'll let you go for now. Hopefully we'll see you at the end of the race. Good luck, Tom.
All right, thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. And that was Tom Athan starting P4, I believe, for the Open Class 13th overall. But here's your starting grid for tonight. Mike Dam on pole, just barely over Mitchell Peak, who's in second. Michael Coates is in third. Ken Copeland, the Open Class driver up there, he'll have a shot at the overall win tonight there from fourth. Ryan Zabelski is in fifth. Sean Hayes in sixth. Cameron Hibbett in seventh. Ruby Coimbra in eighth. Jordy Fike in ninth. Jose Gonzalez, the second open car on the field. He's got a ways to go before he gets back up to Ken Copeland, but he'll start this race from P10. Greg Mack is in 11th. Lee Martin in 12th. Further back, and there is Andrew Kosick is there in 13th. Tom Athan actually fell back to 14th there. Charles Vaccaro in 15th. Andrew Gilliland in 16th. Josh Olson in 17th. And Paulo Coimbra in 18th. And it looks like Zach Burke did not set a lap time there. He will start from the back of the grid in 19th. And Randall, honestly, not something I would have expected here for this track, at least. We have not got, or there aren't as many cars as we normally would have seen in one of these races. And do you think that's just by way of a track, or maybe just inconvenient time for a lot of drivers? Because we are a little bit short. We usually have 25 to 30 car fields in the series.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this track is popular enough that most people should have access to it. We see Zach Burke is not classified on the standings. He is actually in the pro class, so he should have a red number plate, as I'm hearing in my ear that will be updated very shortly. And I want to point out the reason why Tom Athan dropped the spot there at the end. Rui Coimbra was able to get 2 laps in there at the very end, and he still managed to qualify pretty well, 8th place. So he did not quite have those tires up to temperature. Those last couple laps are definitely going to be faster than the first couple. So keep your eye on Rui Coimbra. He could be making his way up to the front by the end of this race.
Yeah, so we'll see if Rui Coimbra can do that. He's starting from P8 right now. He hasn't had the best recent couple races. He does have a win this season. Although I can't quite remember where, but he does have one, so he definitely still has it. But with the updates that this Miata has gotten in the past couple of seasons, just hasn't gone the way of Rui Coimbra. We'll see if he can pull through tonight, starting from 8th on the grid as they head through the Honda hairpin. Looking at Charles Vaccaro, he'll be rolling off 16th, if I'm not mistaken, in the field. And we'll see what he can do here. He's a very solid open class driver. We've seen some great drives from him in the past. I think that also includes a win at Mid-Ohio a couple seasons ago. So very talented driver who races in real life as well. We'll see if he can get it done tonight, starting from 15th or maybe 16th.
And it looks like we have Ron Thomas shouting out Andrew Gilliland. Come on, Andrew. So we'll see what Andrew can get done tonight. And I want to point out that Rui's one win this season was at Mosport, which is a track very, very similar to this one.
That is very true. A lot of elevation change, a lot of fast sweeping corners. So minus the couple of hairpins on this track, very similar. So we'll see if Rui Coimbra can use that experience to maybe help him here tonight from Phillip Island. But the iRacing safety car going to dive into the safety of the pit lane. Now it is all up to the drivers as the field rolls through the final corner and towards the start and finish line. A lot of anticipation going into this race. We'll see if it lives up to the hype as it did the last time we raced here at Phillip Island. As the field comes down the front straightaway, the green flag is out and we are racing at Phillip Island. It's a pretty good start for Mike Dam, but Mitchell Peak going to do better on the outside. He'll have his nose out front as they get down towards turn number 1. Got some pretty decent some help on the inside from Michael Coates there to Mike Dam. Ken Copeland not really on the bumper, and Mitchell Peak is there through turn number 1, side by side for the lead. They've already figured it out for third behind them. Mitchell Peak gonna end up with the lead, maybe into turn number 2. Mike Dam not really with the preferred line there. Mitchell Peak takes the lead in turn 2 on the first lap of this race. The field mainly single file now out of the turn 2 hairpin. Ken Copeland still hanging on there in the open class. Behind them, Tom Athan already making his way up 2 spots, side by side a little further back between Lee Martin and Andrew Kosick. They're trying to get something done into the Honda hairpin, one of the tightest corners on this racetrack. And so far, the field taking every corner very carefully and very cleanly.
A very orderly start here for this race. We saw the front pack get pretty much single file except for that battle for the lead. Zach Burke already starting to make moves up 4 spots already just halfway through this first lap. Mitchell Peak able to snatch that lead away from Mike Dam. Zach Burke's got some work to do if he's going to get back up with the rest of those Pro drivers.
Yeah, he's currently 8 tenths behind Andrew Kosick in front of him, and judging off of how racy these cars are behind him, I don't know if he will have an easy time making his way through the field, but he gets a clean entry into that corner now. Charles Vaccaro goes around, and he's going to take Josh Olson with him as Josh had to go off track. Paulo had to slow down. Paulo had to really hit the brakes there to not hit him, and it looked like maybe just a cell spin just got a little sideways there. Entering this corner, here he is. He's running in line behind Andrew Gillen. He's got Josh Olson to his inside, and it looks like he turns in. Oh, no, there was contact. Looked like he might have turned down the track into the 21 car, and he ends up going around. They get it back together. No harm, no big foul. Now Mike Dam trying to get his lead back, and he will successfully into turn number 1. Already a swap for the lead down this front straightaway, which is where you will see quite a lot of moves tonight. And Mike Dam will hold this lead, expertly defending that inside line in turn 2.
Mike Dam making a textbook move there into turn 1. I think we're going to see this lead swapping around quite a lot with the slipstream down that front straightaway. Charles Vaccaro really far off the back of the pack now. You can see him there on the track map just now approaching turn 1. I think that was a combination of contact and self-spin. You can see that when he initially got on the brake, the rear of the car wanted to step out, and he was really, really trying to ride that one. And I think what happened is he just got a little bit of oversteer, which caused him to turn down on the 21 and got that contact, which sent him around.
Yeah, and so far, just about a lap and a half into this race, Zach Burke has gained the most positions throughout the field. Started dead last, and he's in 14th. And Ken Copeland so far I don't know what the hell just happened to my voice, but Ken Copeland not having the best of starts to this race. He's down 3 spots from where he started. He was 4th on the start of this lap, and he's already down there in 7th, starting to tumble down the order of pro drivers. So we have to see if he can just keep this car clean, maybe have a good strategy and get himself back into the lead, or back at least towards the front of this field. We've seen drivers win from this position on lap 2 before, so no doubt in my mind that Ken Copeland could possibly get it done. But Randall, get ready for this game, because they're going to be swapping positions on the front straightaway just about every lap, but they're side by side for second, so actually they might not this time. No, Mitchell Peak gonna go for it right down to the inside, and it looks like he'll get his nose out front by the time they get to the corner. Michael Coates giving a nice push to Mike Dam. It's not gonna work. Mitchell Peak takes the lead right back a lap later. Try an attempted switchback there from Mike Dam as he heads to the outside. Not gonna get there. They go single file once more.
Keep your eye on Michael Coates. He got up all the way there to Mike Dam's bumper, gave him a push, and then all of a sudden there was a huge gap there. He is saving fuel as now he's going to make the move on the inside of the sweeper around Mike Dam to take P2. He's already saving fuel when and where he can, so he may come out of the pit cycle ahead of some of these drivers and possibly challenging for this win.
Yeah, and Michael Coates finished 2nd last week to Camden Hibbett after 2 or 3 swap positions down the long straightaway of the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and it ended up coming down to the final corner where Camden Hibbett was able to get the better of Michael Coates. So I reckon he'll be thirsty for vengeance here from Phillip Island. So we'll see if he can maybe pull that off tonight, get some redemption after what could have been last week. And so far, he's off to a pretty good start as Rui Coimbra up 3 positions now. He started 8th and he's up into 5th. Almost 4, and Mike Dam just keeps tumbling down the timing tower. I'm not sure what's happening to him. He's just been falling down the order.
I think Mike maybe has lost his rhythm a little bit. It's going to take a couple laps to get it back. This is definitely a rhythm track. A lot of those racing courses that are made for motorcycles involve a lot of rhythm. It's very easy to get offline on one corner, and then that will set you up to be offline for a few more corners after that. We're going to see Rui Coimbra going to go around the outside. Mike Dam taking that defensive line, but here comes Rui Coimbra. I told you, watch out for Rui, and he's in the top 4 now.
Yeah, and real fast, I've been told to not forget about this or I will be fired, so I have to get this out of the way. One of Spec-5's main sponsors this season is us here up in the booth, Slow Motion Broadcasting, which came to fruition by 2 iRacing League owners who found themselves wanting to provide a professional quality broadcast at a price that is approachable to any and all league owners. Big or small, SMB will work with your league to ensure that all of your league's broadcasting needs are satisfied. Check them out at www.slowmotionbroadcasting.com. Once again, that is www.slowmotionbroadcasting.com. So big shout out to us up here in the booth for keeping the Spec-5. Well, Adam, what do you want me to really say there? Big shout out to us in the booth for helping keeping the Spec-5 World Tour moving and giving us awesome shows to watch up here in the booth every week. And actually, while all those shenanigans were going on, Rui Coimbra's up into 3rd, Mitchell Peaks in 4th, Camden Hibbett's in 2nd, Michael Coates in 1st. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Michael Coates managed to get the lead there before the line even. So he led that last lap, took the lead all the way through turn 1 and this entire lap, and he's even starting to build a little bit of a gap. Now, I suspect that will disappear on the front straight, but it looks like Camden's got his hands full trying to keep onto the bumper of Michael Coates. As we're going to jump to Mitchell Peak and see what happened here on the front straightaway, and it looks like he just got absolutely freight trained because of that slipstream. A little bit of bump drafting there between Mike Coates and Camden Hibbett. And he did a really good job of defending. He was able to keep the momentum up, used a little bit of that side draft to try to slow those two down, but they both were able to get clear of him before they got to turn 1.
Yeah, and I mean, after that, he's just kept, or I was going to say he kept losing spots, but he only lost one more spot as Camden Hibbett takes the lead into turn number 1. That's just, it's going to be a revolving door of leaders all night of people just taking the lead into turn 1, and it's just going to keep going like that every single lap. It happened last time we raced here too, and it seems to be the case once more tonight. But Mitchell Peak just, the fall from grace, he went from leading the race, and now he's just back and forth just trying to hang on.
I'm breaking down the door again, guys, and I've got a question for you, Randall. We're seeing all these lead swaps going into turn 1. What is this doing for fuel economy as we see Rui going down to the inside, about to make 2 moves, going for the lead? Anyways.
Rui Coimbra is an animal as he takes that lead away in the Honda hairpin and leads the pack through Siberia. And yes, this could have an effect on the fuel strategy. Actually, some of those drivers that are faster and using that slipstream to make passes, it's actually going to give them a little bit better fuel economy. The simulation falls a little bit short of real life when it comes to fuel. So going faster can actually make you use less fuel. However, it's just going to keep swapping. So what's really important, what's going on here is even only 8.5 minutes into this race, drivers are already sizing up the last lap.
So
they're
really
already
what you're
seeing what kind
telling
of runs they can get.
So what I'm hearing right now is we're not looking at these guys that are switching for leaders. We're looking at people like Sean Hayes that have sat back here in the draft the whole time, saving fuel. Those are guys that may actually be able to pull out a win after this.
Some of these drivers are definitely saving fuel. We've seen Mike Coates do it a few times, but the way that iRacing simulates fuel usage is mostly based on throttle position. So if you're going faster by virtue of the slipstream, you're at full throttle less time down that straightaway. So making that pass for the lead, as long as you're not compromising your line through the first corner, you may actually be using less fuel.
All right, fair enough. I'm going back to my hole now.
I think we might need to get some blast doors in there. I don't know how we can keep him out. I mean, it's just been a constant struggle, but while all those shenanigans were going on, Rui Coimbra he does not get the hard charger award. That still goes to Zach Burke, but Rui Coimbra has gained the second most positions throughout the field. He started 8th, and already he finds himself leading this race less than 10 minutes in, so very familiar territory for Rui Coimbra up there. And Mitchell Peak has already clawed himself back into 2nd now, and I don't know what just happened to Mike Dam, but and I hope I'm not the only one that's noticed, but Mike Dam is currently hanging out in 16th right now. So this is heading into the corner just I don't really know the corner numbers here, but this is before that second hairpin, and the car just loops itself around. I'd like to maybe see if we can get one of the chase cams there to see if maybe there was some net code involved, because that car, it seemed to loop around too fast for that to be real. And we're going to get another replay here of it. This is from the chase camera heading into that corner, and I don't know what happened there. He didn't seem that, I'm at a loss for words there. I mean, normally you would think if a car spins in a situation like that, it would just be a loss of control, but the car spun out so unnaturally and so quickly that had to be netcode, but there was no cars near him, so I'm not sure what happened, but goes straight around, and that's going to pretty much take Mike Dam out of contention for this race as more revolving doors up front as Mitchell Peak retakes the lead.
Alex, I think I have an explanation. A little known fact about Phillip Island is they have a very, very dangerous infestation of invisible wombats. So I think Mike Dam may have actually encountered one of those invisible wombats, and it sent his car around. Luckily, it doesn't look like he has much damage from it, but definitely gonna hurt his race.
Randall, I'm not gonna lie to you, Adam. You're laughing at this one. You said wombat, and I thought you were talking about a Pokemon. I had to Google what a wombat was to know what you were talking about. I was like, is that like an evolution of Zubat or something? I don't know. I didn't know what you were talking about, so I had to Google that one. But that could very well be the case. Some invisible wombats in Australia. The land down under, as a lot of people refer to it as, very, very weird. With all the animal, or with a lot of the wildlife and even the weather itself. So maybe some invisible wombats, maybe new genetic issue that could be happening.
I hate to jump in here, but it looks like we had an issue with the 21 car. Josh Olson has sat still for a very, very long time there at the exit of turn 10. Now back around the place where Charles Vaccaro is, and we'll see if we can get that pulled up. But something happened there to Josh Olson.
Hey guys, real quick, I'm back again from the production booth. I think I may have found our answers to the smaller field size tonight. The time change for a lot of these drivers, including Eugenio Polici, who has shouted us out in the YouTube chat, didn't know the time change in America. Well, we don't understand the time change in America either, Eugenio. You're not the only one, but Ron Thomas followed up with one of the best comments I've seen in a while, said, yes, but the race is in Australia, right before Randall made the wombat comment.
Yes, the time change, catching some drivers off. I've seen this issue in my own league. I always tell drivers, pay attention to that iRacing screen, because the schedule may say one thing on your Discord, but the iRacing server and the iRacing schedule will always tell you the truth.
Oh, and there they go. We just caught that live. I have no idea what just happened. I think Charles Vaccaro sent it and tagged Josh Olson along the way. Olson's going to tow back to the pit lane. Charles Vaccaro is going to keep it running. Maybe. So this is what happened to Josh Olson the first time, Randall.
And looks like, I said turn 10, but this is actually a Honda hairpin. I read the track map wrong, and as he gets it wrong and gets on the inside and has heavy contact there with the inside barrier. And then now back to turn 1, what we just saw, we have Charles Vaccaro on the inside, Josh Olson on the outside as they make their way through turn 1. And it looks like the 21 was holding it pretty tight. The 164 got on that curb a little bit, and they made heavy contact, and it sent them careening across the grass. Luckily for them, they were already at the back of the field and didn't affect anybody else's race. Josh Olson hanging it up, maybe wondering if there was some intent there, but it did not look intentional.
Randall,
they had come together on the first lap, so
I don't think
it was a little bit of tempers flaring, but I don't think that's the case at all here.
Yeah, I don't think it. Sorry, Adam. I don't think it was. I'm the commentator, not you. I'll let you in just a moment. I don't think it was intentional. I've seen that mistake in road course races before where you just send it in too deep on a steep curb and the car just shoots out wide, and there's just nothing you can do from there. Even if Charles Vaccaro slams the brakes and locks his wheel all the way to the right, he's still going to end up slightly tagging Josh Olson. So anyways, Adam, what were you going to say?
Randall, let's go back to a couple races ago in American Muscle Series. I believe there was a somewhat similar incident between you and somebody else. And that may have been more netcode than anything from what I saw on the replay that you showed me.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. The netcode in the past few builds has been very, very unforgiving for side-to-side contact. And we normally don't like to bring up netcode in the broadcast because it kind of breaks immersion, but it's a very real factor in sim racing. So sometimes two cars are very close together, one of them hits a curb, and the sim detects a much, much larger impact, and that car on the outside is almost always the victim.
Yeah, and usually what causes netcode is an instability between usually internet connections between some drivers. So if you see cars blinking, what we mean by blinking is if somebody has a poor internet connection and they just start phasing in and out of reality. That's pretty much the only way you can describe it. They just start they turn invisible, then you can see them again, and they just turn invisible. That's pretty much what blinking is. Usually it's involved with cars like that where you get close to another car and the sim detects an impact, so it sends one or both cars around, like you mentioned, Randall. So, like you said, we don't want to break from the immersion, but it is definitely a factor that has to be addressed sometimes during races. But back to the racing action, Cameron Hibbett is back into the lead of the race with Mitchell Peak trailing him as they head towards the Honda hairpin. Mitchell Peak could think of a move there, but he did lift before the corner, so he wasn't able to. Nope, never mind. Here he goes. He's going to try it. Now, as they head towards side area, he's going to have to give it up. Just couldn't get the run on the exit like Cameron Hibbett could out of that corner. It's pretty much the main pack pretty much stretches from first all the way back to 12th, so a lot of cars still in this lead pack. And Ken Copeland, the open class driver we were talking about, being up towards the front, still in P6, so the open class driver's also still into place. Jose Gonzalez is up as well there in 9th, and Zach Burke has just been continuing to impress more and more this race, just getting around more and more cars there. He's he's up 11 spots right now from last all the way to 8th, and I think Adam might have just had a minor heart attack in the production booth. I don't know what happened over there.
Yeah, Zach Burke got very close to Jordy Fike.
Oh, I didn't see that.
There's a very close racing there between Fike and Burke. Now Burke trying to make his way up. He tore through the field on those first couple laps. Now he's got some of the faster drivers. He's not going to be able to make moves quite as quickly, but he's already got past all the open drivers but one in the form of Ken Copeland, and he's got Jordy Fike between the two of them now. Ken is looking in a pretty good spot. Zach's got a lot of pace here, so he could be challenging at the end of the race. Ken has fallen back into his kind of hold steady strategy from Nürburgring and is doing so as a little bit of contact with Mike Coates, so they both are off in the grass.
Whoa, some airtime back there.
Mike Coates gets over that berm, and we'll have to get another view of that incident to see exactly how that developed, but I would guess that looks like Mike Coates is just quite a bit wide there coming out of 2 and 3 and has to lift a little bit, and Ken just this tracked out a little bit too far and made contact with him. Ken coming out pretty much scot-free off that, lost a bunch of time, but not any damage. Mike Coates, though, on the other hand, went on quite a ride.
Yeah, that's going to put Jose Gonzalez into the lead of the open class there from 7th, and it looked like, just like you said, Ken Copeland, he just washed up in turn 2, but so far, the lead pack remains relatively unchanged. Here's another angle of it. This is Ken Copeland's onboard here. You can see he wants to take the exit onboard with Michael Coates now, and he just goes too wide, and Michael Coates can't do anything about it. He's just along for the ride at this point. What a hit there. A lot of airtime for these cars, and I tell you, Randall, I don't remember if we saw it at Monza or not when we had a massive wreck out of the final out of the oval in this series, but I tell you, one day there will be a day where a car flips in this series, and I know it's the unprofessional thing to do, but I will laugh when that day comes because it will be pretty funny. So
Well, we did see it out of
although-
Ray Lombardi at Mid Ohio. He
That
had
is
some
true.
pretty good rolls in there.
That is true. I think the best part of that was I was just laughing, and I remember you were there just trying to hold it together, trying to make it professional, and so anyways, back to the racing action, back to your normally scheduled programming. Still just very tame race so far, aside from a couple of incidents between cars in the midfield. So far up front, it's been a pretty solid race for everybody up here. Pretty much everybody inside the top 5 has led the race. Actually, no, top 3 has led the race at some point. Sean Hayes, Jordy Fike, and Zach Burke have yet to get up there, but still very solid races going for them, as now Tom Athan getting passed by Greg Mack, as this group's still trying to work their way back towards the leaders, as Jose Gonzalez needs them to do quite, in fact, the opposite. He needs them to start losing some time, as he's currently up there with all the pro drivers in that lead pack. And honestly, still the hope for an open class overall win is still alive, as long as one car is still in that lead pack.
Absolutely. Jose could be saving fuel right now. We've seen Rui Coimbra. We've got trouble. Sean Hayes around at the exit of turn 10. I wonder if he had a little bit of help. We'll try to get that replay pulled up, as the Blue Meanie has to get the car back on track and going in the right direction. We see him coming now. And a little bit loose coming through the top of the hill, but keeps it together just fine. Down the hill and into the braking zone, and through
Just
turn
got
10
loose.
and just got a little bit loose, just came in with a little too much speed. That cambering that I mentioned in the flying lap was just he just had a little bit too much going there. That cambering caused him to spin. We're going to jump onto Jordy Fike and get a first row view of what happened here. We're going to see him as he comes down the hill and through the apex. This rear end will just start stepping out on him.
Yeah, and props to Jordy Fike here. Watch I mean, he didn't really have to pull that much evasive maneuvers. He kind of just took the corner normally aside from the lift on exit there to avoid that, but still very heads-up driving from Jordy Fike to not get involved in that, and still that little group of cars is going to put themselves back in the lead pack with Zach Burke leading them now, and that'll put Jose Gonzalez up one more spot here. No, there's a wreck spin in the Honda hairpin behind him. I'm not sure who that was. That was
Greg Mack and Tom Athan.
Yeah, and they spun in the Honda hairpin. Here's Lee Martin, but towards the rear end of this little group of 4 cars, you see Greg Mack up there. He's leading this field and aggressive defending the inside, and Greg Mack goes to take the corner, and Tom Athan's right there. And I guess just aggressive defending from the top 3 cars in this pack. You see Greg Mack trying to hold off Tom Athan there. Here's the rear bumper camera, and you'll see Ken Copeland try and step out to make a move. Tom Athan's going to try and cover off that inside. Greg Mack holds it in the middle of the track to try and defend. When Greg goes to take the corner, Tom Athan's right there on the curbing. Just nothing either driver could do in that situation. And pit stops well underway now as we're past the halfway point. Rui Coimbra, Jose Gonzalez, and Tom Athan all into the pit lane for their scheduled pit stop tonight. Rui Coimbra went into the pits from the lead, if I'm not mistaken. And one thing I do want to mention is the speed of Zach Burke while these drivers are in the pit lane, because he has the fastest lap of the 1:45.4. And yes, that would have been with a lot of draft, but a lot of other drivers set their fastest laps with the draft as well. So do not turn away from this 13 car. He's got a lot of speed tonight, and he's trying to pull off the last to first challenge like Joshua Soto has done in the past from Sebring, if I'm not mistaken, that race was, where they went 3 wide down to the stripe. But Zach Burke trying to pull off the last to first challenge here from Phillip Island. Can he do it? He has the pace.
And he was towards the tail end of that lead pack. So when cars pit in front of you like that, it opens up some track position. And with the slipstream here, he can get up to the tail end of these top 2 cars. And that's free track position that he'll then be able to keep if he has a good pit stop. So if you're at the back of that pack, it might be best to stay out until the last minute. And those drivers in front, if they're going to pit early, they're going to really be giving up some track position to those drivers behind them. But now Jose Gonzalez is out of the pits and back underway, a bit on an island himself. Nobody around him, lots of clean air, and he needs to set off some really good quality pace laps here after the pit stop so that he can stay with that lead pack once the pit cycle finishes.
Yeah, so Rudy Coimbra going to be the first car out here on, or excuse, I just completely lost my train of thought. Rudy Coimbra going to be the first car out there, having taken a pit stop. His teammate Jose Gonzalez about 6.5 seconds behind him as Mitchell Peak, Zach Burke, and Jordy Fike all into the pit lane this lap. Ken Copeland and Lee Martin going to stay out, as Camden Hibbett all by himself going to stay out there, and nobody else going to pit so far. The next car that would have an opportunity would be Paulo Coimbra, but so far it's just some of the front-running pro-class cars. No tires being taken on any of these cars as well. Zach Burke out of his stall, and then it's going to be Jordy Fike out of his stall. Zach's going to get in front of him. Then it's Mitchell Peak out of his stall, and Mitchell will lead this group of cars back onto the racetrack. Just barely, and there's the differing pit exit we were talking about. Mitchell Peak and Jordy Fike going to take that longer route. Meanwhile, Zach Burke going to bring it right onto the racing surface. We'll see who gets the better run here. It looks like Mitchell Peak gets the better run towards turn number 2, but very even through the pit exit there. So they definitely do provide some different lines there, but overall they do cost you about the same amount of time. And Rudy Coimbra is going to end up right behind that group of cars, so he won't be the leader after this pit cycle, as Mitchell Peak and Zach Burke are going to be the two provisional leaders. As Camden Hibbett with a little message, little cheering from Adam there from the production booth through the SDK chat. A little "Let's go Camden" up at the top of your screen. He won last week from the Nordschleife. He could go for a repeat here from Phillip Island. We have to see when he decides to come into the pit lane, as it looks like he's going to do that right now, actually. So Camden Hibbett into the pits, and we have to see if he can just get a nice pit stop and hold this, see if he can hold this lead.
He really needed to pit this lap. The pit window opened until lap 17, but he did not want to be out there by himself for very long. He would just be losing time to the drivers that had come in and were in a draft. So he really needed to react and pit this lap, and that's exactly what he's done, as we see a few drivers still staying out there. But right now, we're just watching to see when those leaders come around. So far, we haven't seen anybody taking tires. I did see Sean Hayes take tires after that incident. He came directly to the pit lane, took 2 right side tires, and then went back out after getting fuel. So here comes Mitchell Peak now around the final corner, and Camden Hibbett's coming out of the pit lane. Mitchell carrying much more speed is going to easily take the lead here. Camden's going to be hard pressed now to stay in contact with these leaders, but you see the top 5 a little bit spread out here, and we have
Randall,
Andrew Kosick there.
Randall, I'm going to need to stop you right there, because I just noticed something. I'm not sure what happened. Because Andrew Gilliland exited the pit lane in front of Camden Hibbett. So for a second, Andrew Gilliland was on pace with the leaders. And I don't know how he did it, but he was going to be up there with the lead pack, and he still has a shot if he can get into slipstream range. So Andrew Gilliland, the provisional leader in the open class, he still has Jose Gonzalez and Ken Copeland right on his rear bumper, and he is the provisional open class leader after Paulo Coimbra comes into the pit lane. So I'm not quite sure how he got up there, but he did a very, very solid job.
And you mentioned last season when they raced here, we had some trouble with some drivers struggling with fuel at the end of this race. I wonder if Andrew Gilliland maybe short fueled, thinking he could save some and get some track position. But watch at the end of the race, Andrew Gilliland may be in fuel trouble.
Yeah, just maybe. We'll have to see. Fuel trouble was something that drivers had to be wary of last time we raced here at Phillip Island. And I was going to say that Paulo Coimbra was the open class leader, but I just realized that he has yet to come into the pit, so I think he is actually not going to do... Oh, no, he does come into the pits this time by. So everybody has made their scheduled pit stop so far at this race. I reckon Mike Dam and Lee Martin going to have to watch the leaders fly
Alex,
straight by them.
Don't look now. Andrew Gilliland in the pit lane again, so I wonder if maybe he picked up a pit road speeding penalty, and that's why he was so quick out of the pits. We see him now coming into pit lane again. So I wonder what happened there. Maybe he didn't take enough fuel after all.
Yeah, I was going to say,
it's really going to hurt him.
Yeah, and this is going to turn into a race for the open class win here between Jose Gonzalez and Ken Copeland. They have the entire track to themselves. It's just going to be a 15-minute war between the two to see who will come out on top. And currently, Currently, Zach Burke up 17 spots. Started dead last, and he's currently running second. And I don't want to commentators curse him because that is a very real thing, but I honestly think he could pull off the last first challenge. I don't know if, because I know after what Soto did a couple seasons ago, this series has a rule where you have to attempt at least one of your qualifying laps, if not all of them. And I wonder if Zach Berg maybe just was here late and he made a deal with the admin saying like, hey, I can't do my quali laps, just let me start from the rear of the field. And guess that's, again, might be the case tonight. And Zach Burke currently doing a very solid job, currently sitting in second, and he'll have a shot at the lead here tonight. But what the cars behind them need to do with their strength in numbers is they need to work together to try and catch back up to those two leading cars. They're starting to close down the gap a little bit. They just need to try and help each other down these straights and try and catch up to these two leaders.
Just 1 or 2 laps, all is that it's going to take if they're working together to get back into that slipstream range with Zach Burke, and we're going to have a 5-way fight for this win by the end of the race. It's really starting to heat up now. Once they get back in contact, we're going to see a lot of dress rehearsals to see how that last lap's going to play out. Rory Coimbra sticking his nose out there, but not really interested in making a move, just trying to see his apex. Right now, these three keeping it very calm. But the two leaders aren't fighting either, so they really, really need to keep their heads down and keep out of trouble.
Yeah, a little message of support for Jordy Fike there from Adam Thompson. And also, I do want to mention that heading down the front straightaway out of the final corner, actually, the leaders are battling. This is what this group of cars needs. They're going to catch. They're going to probably get in draft range because of this. And it looks like, yeah, they got the gap under a second just from the two leaders going side by side for that little amount of time. And Zach Burke starts dead last, and he currently leads the race with under 15 minutes remaining. So that is absolutely insane. And Adam Thompson showing maybe just a little bit of bias there for the best paint scheme on the grid. And by the way, you spelled scheme wrong. I don't know if you noticed. And I'm sorry, Adam, I had to point that one out. I won my 6th grade spelling bee, all right? I had to do it. All right, I had to point it out. I'm sorry. But regardless, Zach Burke up 18 spots, and he leads this race right now. And I just want to take a moment to point out how Rui Coimbra pushed Camden Hibbett down that front straightaway for maybe the back third or quarter of that front straightaway. And they still closed that gap up by like 0.3 of a second. So you can honestly just sit there and ponder how much bump drafting would help if it were the entire front straightaway, which Rui Coimbra is going to have a shot at once more, unless Camden Hibbett has a really nice run on Mitchell Peak in front of him. These two are well within the range of the leaders, and especially if Mitchell Peak and Zach Burke go side by side into one, that's going to really allow them to catch up now as Rui Coimbra continues to push Camden Hibbett down the front straightaway. Mitchell Peak easily takes the lead into turn number 1, but Camden Hibbett almost less than half a second behind the leaders now.
And we're going to see a 10-minute battle for this win between 5 cars. As long as Jordy can maintain this draft, it looks like he's struggling a little bit now, but he's still easily within slipstream range. But that second pack has now caught. You saw whenever Zach Burke made the move on Mitchell Peak in the middle of the lap, Mitchell was very passive and kind of just gave him the spot because he knew that if they fought very hard, they were going to end up bringing the second pack in. But now it's too late. It's happened. So we're going to see Mitchell fight a little bit harder for this lead. And now we have it, the 5-way fight. Start seeing some of those dress rehearsals coming out of the last corner. We're going to see a lot of slipstreaming, see who's going to work together, who's going to block, and it's going to be a wild one.
And if we want to get the commentators curse over with, I'm going to give you guys my pick for the win here tonight. I'm just saying, Jordy Fike is my dark horse for this race, all right? He was within a second. Now he's almost 2 seconds behind. So I was gonna point this out like as they were going into the Honda hairpin, but I guess he must have got loose out of Siberia or something because now he's over 2 seconds back. But I'm just saying, Jordy Fike's my dark horse for this race. If he can catch back up to those leaders, I think the 09 car is gonna end up winning this race. But after Siberia that lap, Randall, don't even make a pick.
Alex, you do realize that Jordy, number 1, is the main admin of Spec-5 World Tour, and he's the one that pays us, that allows me to pay you. So if he wrecks, you're screwed.
Well, Adam, I think our commentators cursed him without even saying his name, honestly. I don't know what happened that last lap, but he just lost all of his time. So it's going to be a 4-car fight for the win, as these four cars under a blanket for the top 4. So Randall, scratch that segment. We're not going to give our picks for the win here tonight. No.
You have to wonder if Jordy Fike may be having some fuel issues and having to save early in order to make the distance. Because he's definitely fallen off the pace, but this 4-way fight for the lead has gotten a little spicy. We're seeing these cars are very close together. They are not giving each other much space. They're all very hungry for a win. Any 4 of these drivers has a good chance. And if they really start fighting and Jordy does manage to have enough fuel, then he will be able to get back up there and join that fight. As we see Jose Gonzalez still leading Ken Copeland. They're really, really at it. But Mike Dam has joined into that fight. And just behind him is Lee Martin. So Ken the Cat is trying to make a move there now around Jose as we jump back to the leaders. And it looks like he gets it done on the sweeper after Siberia and has free air on the run up the hill. And he's got a little bit of a gap there too.
Yeah, and you also have to look out for what Mike Dam might do in that battle. Mike is going to be on a recovery race after what he had to do earlier in the race. So he's going to try and get as many spots as he can to recover as many points as he can. So he might end up interrupting that battle for the open class lead to take 6th place overall. Because remember, these drivers don't fight for class points. They fight for overall points that count towards their separate championships. But here's a little dress rehearsal for the win. Zach Burke almost just got doored there, but Camden Hibbett going to push Mitchell Peak straight to the lead. Camden might maintain second here. Yes, he will, as they head through turn number 1, but little dress rehearsal there, as you were mentioning there, Randall. And actually, Mike Dam just set the fastest lap, took it from Zach Burke there by almost 2/10 there with a 1:45.2.
And he got around both Gonzalez and Copeland to do that. So he definitely got a double slipstream down that straightaway and was able to set a time. If you go back to the end of the last lap, because we're going to jump on board here with Mike Dam and see how he got this pass done. First around Gonzalez, and then just absolutely going to have to send it around Ken Copeland here into turn 1. He's got the inside line showing his nose. He's got position, and he just absolutely pushes it into that corner. And that's a little slide job there, even on the exit, gets in front of Copeland. But at the end of the last lap, we saw Rui Coimbra was laying back quite a bit and then got a huge run down the straightaway. So he is already sizing up how much he can lay off to get that run so that he can be kind of the surprise at the end of the race. So keep your eye on Coimbra. Right now, these drivers are really, they're not taking any chill pills at all. They are fighting the entire lap for positions. I think second place is probably the place to be, unless you can do what Rui did last lap, lay back and get an absolutely monster run.
Yeah, there was a fight for second there through Siberia, and honestly, I'm surprised that they were able to maintain their gap to Camden Hill with how hard they were racing. But I guess they were just full throttle throughout the entire. They were just full throttle throughout that entire stretch. With that little bend, Sean Hayes and Tom Athan going to be going at it. As the leaders now, they're going to have probably a couple position swaps here. So Rui Coimbra going to go forward on Mitchell Peak. Zach Burke going to go forward for the lead, and he will get it. And Rui Coimbra might slide through for second here if he can get a nice run out. Camden Hibbett going to try and fight back for the lead. He's not going to be able to send it to get back to the inside of Zach Burke. Let's see if Rui Coimbra can hold this on the outside. It looks like he can't. He'll just be able to get Mitchell Peak for now, and he'll have to settle for third behind Camden Hibbett for the time being. He's going to peak to the outside, though, through turn 3. He'll have, or the inside, for turn 3. He'll have the outside into the Honda hairpin, so I don't know if he'll be able to get this done, but no, it looks like he's just about clear there. He'll have a good run through the Honda hairpin, and he'll have a better shot through Siberia, but they need to make sure that Zach Burke doesn't get too far out ahead, and it looks like he won't as Rui Coimbra going to fall back in line behind Camden Hibbett. He'll go forward again, though, through Siberia.
Rui definitely applying the pressure here to Hibbett. Let's see if he can handle it. So far, Hibbett been able to defend just fine and keep that position. We see a little bit of a gap there forming into Zach Burke ahead, and Jordy Fike was able to close that gap by about a second during all that fighting. As now we see Ken the Cat leading Jose Gonzalez. There's a bit of a gap there. He's getting a bit of a slipstream from Mike Dam and maybe even taking some notes on how to be faster. Mike Dam absolutely flying out there now on his recovery run.
Yeah, and one thing that I feel like I mention every race for these drivers is they just have to think bigger picture. They just have to think of the big picture in pretty much every race. You guys, because especially for the leaders, they can fight for second all they want, but eventually fighting leads to time loss, and time loss leads to losing. Zach Birkin losing their shot at the lead, but Rui Coimbra going to maybe go for something here. Cameron Hibbett with ascend into turn number 1. Zach Birkin and Rui Coimbra side by side for the overall lead. It looks like Rui Coimbra not going to be able to make it stick, and here comes Cameron Hibbett back to the outside through turn number 2. Rui Coimbra is going to have the preferred line, but a nice run from Cameron Hibbett around the outside, but he's going to have to give it to Rui Coimbra that lap.
And we're going to jump back. Speaking about losers, we're going to jump back here to Charles Vaccaro, who's had a rough race. He's had a couple incidents out here. I don't mean to call Charles a loser.
That was
but
just mean.
He is tonight's back marker salute. Charles, man, you've had a rough night. We know that you got pace. We know you're a good driver, and it's just not been your night. At least you haven't hit an invisible wombat, but thank you for continuing to drive, continuing to carry on, and sir, we salute you. Charles Vaccaro, our back marker salute.
I feel like Darrell Waltrip up in the booth when he watched Kyle Busch wreck Sam Horner Jr., whoever it was at Texas in the trucks in like 2013. He's just like, that's just wrong. That's what I feel like right now. But back to the racing action, because we've got 4 minutes to go, and it'll probably be I want to say give or take maybe 2 or 3 laps to go at the line here, so the race for the lead going to really start to pick up as Rui Coimbra and Cameron Hibbett going to have to put away the fight for second right now and try and take it to Zach Burke down this front straightaway. It looks like they have some pretty even gaps this time. They're all split up by just about 0.2 of a second. Rui Coimbra already getting the benefit of the slipstream down the front straightaway. He'll send it to the outside. He'll have help from Cameron Hibbett, and thing is, if that's the last lap of your Cameron Hibbett, do you send it 3 wide there? Mitchell Peak is going to decide to that time. He'll try and get to the inside of Zach Burke, and in one singular straightaway, Zach Burke went from the lead of the race all the way down to maybe last if Mitchell Peak can get a nice run through this corner, but Zach is going to hold on to third, and in the matter of one straightaway, Zach Burke just went from the lead to third, and that is the power of the slipstream, my friends, and it's going to play a pretty big factor in the finish of this race, no doubt.
And don't be fooled by these races to turn 1. It doesn't matter who wins the race to turn 1. It matters who wins the race to the finish line on the last lap. So some of these drivers, they may be losing a couple spots going into turn 1. They're going to be there at the end. And that's what really matters. So that slipstream, not as powerful halfway down the straightaway. So you got to time that a little bit better if you're going to be in first at the line. As we're going to watch Zach Burke get that spot back from Camden Hibbett coming down here. Heavy on the brakes. Really look at the rear end of that car. Want to step out and absolutely bombs it in there. Gets that pass done clean. They really give each other plenty of room to get a pass done, but not enough to just make it easy.
Yeah, and one thing that I do want to mention is that run out of the final corner. As soon as you get out of this corner that they're in right now, that's second to last corner. As soon as you get out of that second to last corner, you start feeling the benefit of the slipstream. And that slipstream is going to last from this last corner all the way to the start-finish line. And Rui Coimbra was able to get up alongside Zach Burke before they even got to the start-finish line. So the race for the lead is on as there's the white flag. And that could have been the finish right there. Cameron Hibbett going to send it 3 wide down into turn number 1. Here we go for the final time around Phillip Island. Rui Coimbra going to get back to third. Cameron Hibbett and Zach Burke side by side through turn number 1 as they're all on top of each other. Zach Burke off track. He'll bring it back on and he'll hit Rui Coimbra. He can't save it. That might have just given the win to Camden Hibbett unless Mitchell Peak has something to say about it.
It was not. It was a very unlucky incident there for Rui Coimbra. He was sitting in the catbird seat to come with this victory on the last lap, and very unlucky. The stewards will definitely be looking at that post-race. Unfortunate, but now we have a 2-way fight here for the win.
Yeah, Mitchell Peak is going to have a shot at this now. If he can get that slipstream, it's going to be pretty difficult. He's got 0.8 of a second to make up in about half a lap here. He doesn't have that much time, but he could have the benefit of the slipstream here on this little short shoot. He's going to need a monster turn 8 and 9 here if he wants to catch back up to Cameron Hibbett. He's got the gap under 0.7 of a second now into turn 7, I want to say, then down into turn number 8. Mitchell Peak going to try and have to fight all he can out of this hairpin. It's going to be the most important hairpin of his life if he wants to win this race, and he did get a good exit. He needs a lot of slipstream here if he wants to close that gap to Camden Hibbett, but it could be 2 for 2 for the 32 as he heads out of the final corner. Mitchell Peak, he has the benefit of the slipstream, but it's not going to work. Camden Hibbett is going to go 2 in a row from Phillip Island. And quickly, let's switch back to the race for the open class lead. And it looks like it's going to go the way of Ken Copeland, down 3 spots from where he started, but he'll still win at the end of the day from Phillip Island over Jose Gonzalez. What a dramatic finish to the end of this race. I did not see that coming.
Jordy Fike gaining a couple spots there on that last lap incident, had enough fuel to bring it home and stands now on the podium. Rui Coimbra ends up 4th. That's where he could have ended up when it all shook out anyway, so not a whole lot of time lost there for him. Mike Dam with a huge recovery comes back home in 5th place after hitting that invisible wombat.
And Adam still really likes that joke, but I'm at a loss for words after that one. I mean, I'm not surprised that Zach Burke went as far as he did to try and get that win. I just didn't think that somebody would have went dirt tracking to try and take the lead there. It's just absolutely insane. It just shows how much every single one of these drivers in the series wants to win no matter the cost. And obviously that time it was a pretty big cost for Zach Burke as he just sent it into turn 1 a little bit too deep.
As we on board with Charles Vaccaro here, our back marker salute. He's going to bring home the groceries and finish the race. Good job, Charles. It was a rough night, man. You'll have a better week next week. And I would like to point out there, on that last lap, Mike Dam ran a 45.2. Absolutely blistering pace.
Yeah, and here is your results tonight from Phillip Island. Camden Hibbett takes the win just barely after some last lap contact between Zach Burke and Rui Coimbra, as Mitchell Peak almost got there, but he just couldn't quite squeak it out there in 2nd place. Jordy Fike is there in 3rd. Rui Coimbra after that last lap contact. Could have been worse for him. He finishes 4th. Mike Dam with a great recovery race there, finishes 5th. Zach Burke got the worst of that incident on the last lap. He'll end up 6th, but still a great showing from him after starting dead last and having a shot at the win. Excuse me, as Ken Copeland takes the win in the open class after he started 4th, had a shot at the overall win, just couldn't maintain speed early, but he still takes the win over Jose Gonzalez, who finishes 8th, Lee Martin in 9th, Brian Zabelski in 10th, Tom Athens there in 11th, Sean Hayes in 12th, Andrew Kosick in 13th, Andrew Gilliland in 14th, Paulo Coimbra in 15th, Charles Vaccaro in 16th, Greg Mack in 17th, Michael Coates in 18th, and Josh Olson rounds out the field tonight in 19th, and Randall, I believe you are on standby with, if I can just see past the little race results here, I believe you are on standby with one of our winners here tonight.
That's right. I have Ken the Cat Copeland, our open class winner. Ken, you started up in 4th place and brought it home in 7th overall. Looked like you struggled there a little bit early on, but you still had a good race and brought home the open class win. Tell us about it.
Yeah, not the cleanest race overall, not what I was hoping for, but the result was still good. Generally just started really, really well where I wanted, and just kind of toe onto the pros, hang on to them, try to create as much of a gap over Jose as I possibly could throughout the race. Everything was going well until I think Michael Coates and I just tried to occupy the same space. I know I was pushing out. I thought he was going to give me a little bit more room. Regardless, apologies to him. I know that kind of ruined his race, but otherwise it was pretty good. Towards the end, I can owe a lot of my pace to Mike Dam.
Absolutely. You were blistering on that qualifying run. We saw you up there in P2 for the longest time and then eventually dropped down to P4. Where did you find all this pace? Is this just one of your tracks?
No. Like I'm familiar-ish with Phillip Island. It was in the Advanced Series a few weeks back, so I'm familiar with it. But it's honestly just reps. I put in laps and laps and laps all week. And that's on top of doing just kind of the quick resets. So just practicing corners. And we were practicing earlier today, and it was like 62 degrees on the track, and it was just slippery as hell. And as soon as it hit like 64, 66, all of a sudden some of that pace came back. So that was just a really good lap in perfect temperatures, I guess, aside from the race itself.
Well, that win helps you solidify your points lead in the open class division. Before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, you guys, Slow Motion Broadcasting, thank you so much for broadcasting week to week. Y'all do an amazing job, so thank you so much for that. I want to thank the admins and the IRT team from the Spec-5 League. All of them do a wonderful job just kind of donating their time to make sure all this stuff runs smoothly, so thanks to them as well as my wife, Dana, and the friends that I've got out there watching. So Will and Tina, if you're still awake, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for supporting, and thank all the fans.
All right. Well, congratulations on another win, and we'll see you back on track next week and maybe in the booth for a third time. And that was your open class winner, Ken Copeland. And Alex, I think you have our overall race winner, Camden Hibbett.
I sure do. And Camden, you go 2 in a row from the Nürburgring and now from Phillip Island. How does it feel, and how'd you pull that one out?
Well, first of all, I got to apologize to Zach Burke and Rui Coimbra was kind of a side effect of that. I pushed, me and Zach made contact into one on the final lap, and it was just, it's not the way I wanted to win it. But hey, a win's a win. Yeah, it was, I knew, I knew what I wanted to do with about 10 minutes left, and I barely made it work. I didn't think I was going to be 3 wide heading into turn 1 on the final lap. Hoping it was just going to be 2, but that's the way it goes sometimes. And yeah, it was an awesome race, and yeah, I apologize to those 2 again.
Yeah, and Phillip Island brought us another great show from you tonight. And it was a lot of up and downs with a lot of carnage there throughout the entire portion of the race. How did you survive and make it to the end after, especially having been in the midfield for quite a decent portion of that race?
Yeah, I was getting, so I was getting frustrated because I wanted the lap lead for the bonus point, and I would lead like the whole lap, and then somebody would get me on the front stretch, and I felt like I was leading for quite a bit of time, and I didn't have any lap lead to my name. But it was a really fun race, just like last season. Funny story, last season I won Imola, which was the week before Phillip Island, and went to Phillip Island, won. Last week I won at Nürburgring, came to here and won again. So I don't know. History repeated itself, I guess.
Yeah, so we'll see. Maybe if next time we go to Phillip Island, you win the race before and you win here from Phillip Island. Next week we head to the land of Austria for the Red Bull Ring. To my knowledge, it'll be the first time the Spec-5 World Tour has gone to that track. How are you looking forward to that one?
I'm going to be honest. I don't own the track yet, so I can't really answer that question. But I've seen it. I've seen the track in F1 and everything. It seems like it's going to be a drafting kind of track. Hopefully, it'll be a really fun race, just like this one was tonight.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll see how you do there. Maybe try and go 3 for 3 from Austria. And before we let go, anybody you would like to thank, give a shout out to?
Yeah, you guys for putting on an amazing broadcast every week, every Friday. I would go back and watch them, and it's even better than the last week. So huge thank you to you guys. All the admins from Spec-5, they do a ton of work each week to help the races run as smoothly as they go. Huge thanks to them as well. My mom, my dad, my grandpa, my coach, Kevin King, David Cook, everyone that has helped me in the real life racing stuff, and all that has helped me get to this point. And yeah, thanks again, everybody.
All right, well, congrats on the win tonight, Camden, and maybe hopefully you can go 3 for 3 from Red Bull Ring next week. So good luck with that. But that's all we have for you tonight, my friend. Congrats on the win, and have a good night.
We'll see. Thank you, everybody.
And that was Camden Hibbett, your overall winner tonight from Phillip Island. And Randall, what a race.
Absolutely. Phillip Island is just one of those tracks it always delivers a lot of action, lots of passing opportunities, a big slipstream on that front straightaway. And with cars like this, it's almost a match made in heaven, as long as those invisible wombats don't interfere too much. So we had another great race here in the Spec 5 at Phillip Island, and I I hope this is a annual entry on the calendar. I hope we see it every season.
Yeah, definitely. It's a fantastic track, but looks like that's all we have for you tonight for your upcoming broadcast this Sunday, March 19th at 8:10 p.m. EST. The Cross Series League Racing Championship returns back to their dirt road portion of the schedule with the Pro 2 light trucks at Crandon International
Alex.
Raceway. That's going to be a heck of a show.
And I do have a quick
Yeah,
question before you continue on about that. I got to go to Randall. Do you think you're going to get Tim Coxed again?
I'm just hoping to get a lap in a feature race in that series. To be honest with you, and then we'll handle the 1776 reaction.
Gonna need maybe a tiny bit more context. All I'm able to gather off that one is that Randall, you've been wrecked by Tim in Cross Series League Racing Championship. The drivers in that league are no stranger to that. You just got to get used to it. But it's only banter. All right, it's only banter. I'm not trying to be mean. It's only banter. All right, leave me alone. Yeah, you're on to my tricks. But this Tuesday, March 21st at 8:45 p.m. EST, the WSRL series returns with the GTP LMP2 and GT3 cars from Circuit de Neve Magny-Cours. Randall, I know you speak French, so maybe you can judge whether or not I pronounced that one right.
It was
Moving on.
passable.
Moving on, that same Tuesday at March 21st at 9:10 p.m. EST, the American Muscle Series returns with the Ford Mustang FR500s from Sebring International Raceway. Maybe we can call it a little bit of part of the Sebring Super Weekend coming up with the 1,000 miles of Sebring and the 12 hours of Sebring. Maybe we could call it a part of that. And then 1 week from now, this Thursday, March 23rd, 9:15 p.m. EST, the Spec-5 World Tour returns once again for their third to last race of the season with the Mazda Miata MX-5 Cup cars from the Red Bull Ring. Going to be a very drafty style track for those cars, so you're not going to want to miss that one. It's going to be a heck of a show, but that is going to do it for us. My name is Alex Andersen. I've been joined in the booth by Randall McGrew with Adam Thompson in our virtual production truck, and from Phillip Island for season 12 of the Spec-5 World Tour. Have a good night.
So Patrick, do we, do we describe this for everybody, Rob?
What?
You describe it. You describe it. I
What?
do enough talking.
Whatever. What? I think any car's dead in iRacing. I think it's gone.
Oh, it's definitely. I agree. It's not going to survive much, but I still think we'll find opportunities to race it, just not as fruitful as before. Some of them just want to make. What's the thing? Like that guy wanted to make like dolls out of Tyler's hair, but then there's just other guys who are just like. He did. He would say weird things to Tyler, man. Like he was a strange guy. And then like other guys would just show up and he's like, "Oh, we never met you? Sure, come race this 24 with us." And then you just jump in the car and wreck us out in a lap and be like, "Okay, never see you again."
Yeah, that
Like,
was
okay. Well, better luck next year, I guess.
That was the guy from.